What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday we had Nintendo reveal their Black Friday sales that we can look forward to taking advantage of here in a couple of weeks, and well, there's certainly something. We'll go over that one here today. Also, we're going to be talking about that PlayStation 5 hacking situation. I went over it briefly this past weekend as stuff started to break, but now the whole situation has continued to progress and it's become very interesting. And we're also going to talk about SEGA, as they mention their overall sales have been up in their most recent financial report, even talking about investing quite a bit of money going forward into game development. Guys, if you enjoyed these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with Shin Megami Tensei 5. It is out later on this week, and I'm looking forward to it. Generally, I do like to pick up the different JRPGs, especially the larger ones, and play through them. But this one in particular is being described as a very difficult, hardcore JRPG. So yeah, I'm looking forward to grabbing this. Unfortunately, as many Switch titles have, it does appear that it's leaked out online early and it's just kind of up for people to be downloading and distributing. And again, this tends to happen ahead of Switch releases because the system was so easily hacked early on in its life that the game breaks street date, and then all of a sudden, a day or two later, it just pops up online and people start distributing that along with screenshots, videos, and overall spoilers. So I'm just bringing this up so you can be careful now throughout the rest of this week and try to avoid any of that. And it's difficult. On Twitter, you can just scroll through and there's a video of like the final boss or something there. And Shin Megami Tensei 5 is a game people have been waiting a while for. Since actually the beginning, when the Switch was first revealed, Shin Megami Tensei 5 was technically there during that big press conference that they had. So here's hoping you can kind of avoid and navigate the internet, really, with these spoilers out there, at least until later on this week when you can pick the game up. Also, we do know that SEGA will be releasing their next big Sonic game after Sonic Forces next year, as they showed it off in a very quick teaser at the end of their Sonic Direct, or their Sonic Central that they had earlier this year. Well, it looks like we may have the final name for this game. I say final name because during that video that they put up, there was metadata that was pointing to the title at the time being Sonic Rangers, and we even had some leaks and rumored reports around game testers trying this game out, and it was like an open world Sonic game where you went around to different towers even and conquered them. It sounded kind of like a Ubisoft Far Cry game, actually. Well, it looks like we may have the final title. You can see it here. That being Sonic Frontiers. This was a trademark that SEGA had filed. And yeah, I mean, Sonic Rangers could have just been like a working title, as they'll typically have like code names and stuff for these different games. Just Sonic Rangers was a little much more straightforward because Sonic was in the title. But I would assume this is being trademarked now in anticipation of a big reveal, most likely beginning of next year, I'm going to say, as they work towards its big release later on next year. It sounds like this is going to be an ambitious game, a big shift for Sonic. So here's hoping it pays off. Really, though, I guess it can't be any worse than Sonic Forces, although that did get a 35 out of 40. So I guess when Sonic Frontiers does come out, we can play the game, of course. Did it score better than Sonic Forces and Famitsu? Oh, and check this out. Do you remember how we talked about that Best Buy subscription that was like $200 a year for tech support and early access to different items? Well, it looks like they are certainly leveraging that subscription. You can see this over on VGC. Best Buy has PS5 consoles available online, but only for Total Tech members. That $200 product protection plan that they launched last month. Wow, shocker. PS5s are behind this very expensive subscription. Go figure there. Well, Walmart did the same thing yesterday. Walmart Plus popped up with PS5 consoles if you're part of their subscription there. Remember that TikTok video that was going viral showing all those PS5 consoles in a Walmart warehouse, and people were figuring, oh, that's for Black Friday. No, that was for their subscription service. We'd actually talked about this before, so there you go. It's a way, of course, for these companies, get you to sign up, pay them money for the privilege, then give them more money for a console. It's just very difficult to find. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and Black Friday. I'm expecting to see more and more of these ads pop up from the different companies, Microsoft, Sony, and maybe even different third-party companies, just going over what their plans are for Black Friday or even Cyber Monday if they just want to have like a digital storefront that just has all these games marked down. Well, Nintendo shared theirs over on their site, and we've pretty much had the same Black Friday bundle for well, years now. Basically since the Switch was introduced, I believe, except maybe the first year they didn't do anything. But after that, we had that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe bundle with the Switch, and I thought, that apparently leaked out a bit early, and would they really do that again? Well, let's take a look on their page. Yep, they're doing that again, their Black Friday bundle. It is indeed the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, a 3-month Nintendo Switch Online individual membership, and yes, that is the V2 Red Box Switch. They are not going to be selling the V1 Switch, I would say, anymore, concerns, of course, around security and all of that. So I guess this is the better battery life Switch with Mario Kart 8. Sure, I still feel like I would always recommend people to get the Switch OLED if you're jumping into the Switch ecosystem that they have set up now, or the family of systems for the first time. I just think there's more value there to having that OLED display over saving $50. Although Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is generally $50 to $60. I guess there's a bit more value for that. But hey, this Black Friday bundle, about as creative as their Switch Online service, so status quo there. Looking at the games that they have, they are slashing some of their first-party titles, which is not typical of Nintendo. It's worth looking at these just because of that. So they're saving $20 on select games. They have Xenoblade Chronicles. I'd say that's a pretty good pickup at $40. Splatoon 2, I'd say maybe wait for Splatoon 3. Paper Mario, that was a very fun game there at $40. Fire Emblem is a very long game, certainly worth checking out at $40. Breath of the Wild, I don't even need to recommend that, I'm sure, at this point. Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, I mean, it was on the Wii U. If you're looking for just a 2D Mario game, sure. But then you also have Mario Maker 2 right next to it at the same price. I would probably just go with that. And then you have The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. There's also 2 other items on sale where you can save $40 on Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, that being $60. You know what? I will say that's pretty good in terms of what you get out of that, especially if you were on the fence, because it was $100 when it came out. For what you get there, I actually enjoyed my time with it. I thought it was at least a very interesting and a different take on just playing a game right on your TV, but in this case you're driving a little car around the house. My only issue with it is the range isn't great, but if you have some kids or some cousins or something come over for the holidays, this could be a lot of fun to kind of get and then show it to them and play around with. I think it'd be fun. And then you have Ring Fit Adventure, save $25, and Ring Fit Adventure is sold very well for Nintendo, and once again, a very unique experience, a very fun experience, and I generally would encourage people to check this out if you're looking to maybe get a bit more active at $55. It's not bad. But overall, Nintendo's big bundle here, not very exciting because it's the same bundle we've had for years now. I'm a little surprised they didn't do anything with their Switch Lite. You figure they grab a Switch Lite and they throw like new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe in there, or maybe throw The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, just the game kind of to tack on and put it out there at the normal price of $200, or even just tack on the Nintendo Switch Online service, right? Like, I know Nintendo is trying not to break the bank here with some of these deals. It could get too out of hand. They might start doing things like slashing the price down to $30 for a game. It's out of hand then, right? But maybe you'll see Best Buy or Walmart or any of these big box stores just drop a gift card in with the Switch Lite to get people in the doors. It's just another basic Black Friday sale here from Nintendo, but let me know what you think and if there are any you're picking up later on this month. Next up, let's talk about this PlayStation 5 hacking situation over the weekend. It seemed to catch a lot of people off guard, myself included, when Andy from The Flow posted up a picture of their system settings that showed a debug menu at the bottom of it for the PlayStation 5, even just posting straight from the system with that PS5 share hashtag, which told a lot of us that, yeah, things were starting to move along for the PS5 being potentially opened up to homebrew and running unsigned code and custom firmwares, and yeah, eventually, I'm sure in Sony's eyes, piracy. Well, it looks like things have continued to accelerate here. We can see this over on Twitter. This from Fail Overflow. They post this screenshot, a little emoji there saying another one bites the dust. And a lot of people are looking at this saying, what exactly does this mean? Well, they followed up saying, translation, we got all symmetric PS5 root keys. They can all be obtained from software, including per console root key, if you look hard enough. Now, I'll admit I'm not exactly up to date on root keys and all this, but basically what appears to be happening here, as people have started to explain online, is they now have the ability to essentially decrypt different files and start looking through them, which means this would start them off on the journey of eventually figuring a way to exploit the PS5 with its official firmware, essentially find a way in so that they can run unsigned code, which would lead us to get to the point where, yeah, we could have custom firmware. You could have a hacked, soft-modded PlayStation 5 run all kinds of applications, which I know a lot of people talk about homebrew or emulation, but typically we will then see it start to lead to things like being able to get retail copies early, like we see with the Switch, and all of a sudden games get out there and start getting spoiled online. But this is a big deal for Sony, and I'm sure they have already noticed. This doesn't necessarily mean we're going to see the PS5 hacked anytime soon. There are a few things that have to happen. One, they'd have to release the hack itself, or the method to get to a point where you can run unsigned code. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen anytime soon, because they need to get there. Essentially, they have the keys to open up the PS5 and start looking through things. So this could be something that takes a year or even 2 years to continue developing and progressing until we get to that point. And that's if they care to share it at all. There's a possibility, yeah, you might go to Sony and they would pay you out a bunch of money, as they have done with different hacking groups in the past through programs like HackerOne. And now more than ever, Sony has a massive incentive to make sure that the PS5 does not get hacked, opened up, and ability to run these games without buying them, because they are investing so much money right now. We've heard the budget's ballooning over $100 million. So you need every sale you can get. And while I'm sure not everyone's going to run games on the PS5 without buying them when they hack their system, there will be quite a few that would do that. So we'll see how Sony responds going forward. I'm sure they're keeping an eye on this situation, but we went from 0 to 100 very quick with this whole thing, from a debug setting being found to all of a sudden the root keys being spotted, and now I'm sure used to figure out a way to open up the PS5 to soft modding. And I guess we'll find out what happens as we go along through the rest of this year and into 2022. Next up, let's talk about SEGA and their most recent financial report from April to September, because we do tend to worry about SEGA, don't we? It's like, okay, how are they doing over there? They have Atlas, and we'd like to see a good Sonic game at some point come out of them, specifically a good 3D Sonic game. But turns out their most recent report was very good. We can see this over on Twinfinite. They say the company reports strong performance centered on the entertainment contents business, which focuses on video games. Now, the biggest thing here is they do have a pretty serious interest and business behind like pachinko machines, but that appears to be on a bit of a downturn right now due to the chip shortage. No, what appears to be holding them up currently are new game releases, as well as some of their back catalog that continues to sell, which has led to them saying the results of the business currently over the last 6 months significantly exceeded expectations. And then they went on to talk a bit more about the future and some of their plans, specifically around investments. They say they expect to invest approximately 100 billion yens, about $880 million, by March 2026. So over the next 5 years or so, this in order to expand its development pipeline. Remember, they had talked about their deal with Microsoft very briefly in that press release, but they brought it up here as well, and they brought up that super game once again. I mean, investing nearly $900 million into game development over the next 5 years or so, ending in 2026. I mean, that's a pretty serious commitment, and I do wonder how many super games exactly are coming out of this, because if this is like one super game and then some smaller titles, I mean, there'd be a lot riding on that super game that's going to be in development throughout the next 5 years, alongside of Microsoft leveraging their cloud services, Azure, whether that is for just computing in the game itself when it releases, or just its development environment, because they mentioned both. They said, yeah, we're going to have the ability to leverage Azure for development of this game, but then also the game itself. We're still, unfortunately, very unclear as to what this super game is going to be. I still believe it's going to be one of these larger live service games that SEGA sees a lot of companies around them creating, that is, making a lot of money. We've heard the microtransactions for some of these titles. Obviously, you see FIFA, but that's every single year that comes out. But like a Destiny, you see that, and it appears they're making a lot of money, just ongoing revenue, for a game that they developed and released, a while ago now, in terms of just the video game landscape. So that's kind of what I think SEGA wants to make over the next 5 years. A pretty big upfront investment, potentially, for a game that could last a good part of a decade even. So the biggest thing here, though, is it has to be a good game, and I would say it has to be a notable IP. I don't know if this would be a brand new intellectual property, that they would run with. I mean, maybe they want to create something like that to continue for the future, or maybe they leverage their large back catalog of IPs that really haven't been used that much. We'll find out here hopefully over the next year or two when they're ready to tell us about it. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the Xbox 20th anniversary stream that will be taking place next week, that being on November 15th, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Sounds like it's mostly just going to be a big nostalgia trip for anyone who was really around when the original Xbox released, and obviously running up through the years, the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, and then eventually the release of the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S. But we can see this over on Twitter. This from Aaron Greenberg, who says, note, this is a celebration stream the team has put together for our 20th anniversary, so not designed as a news beat or for any game reveals. But a lot of people still believe there could be some announcements around backwards compatibility. And when we start seeing things like this from Xbox Era, who noticed a rating in Brazil, Ark's Fatalis, this is a game that I must have missed completely on the original Xbox, but it's an original Xbox game that was developed by Arcane Studios and was rated in Brazil. The other day, in fact, if you look at the listing here that was spotted, it actually says Xbox. I mean, it also says PC, but like, that's not Xbox Series. That appears like they're saying, yeah, this is for the original Xbox, which, I mean, I guess if they're going to be doing backwards compatibility with it, they would want to get it rated here. So, I mean, one, it's interesting to see that pop up, right? A rating for the original Xbox. But two, this just ahead of that big 20th anniversary for the Xbox brand. I hope we see a lot of really cool backwards compatibility stuff here. And seeing Arcs, I looked at the gameplay and I maybe realized why I overlooked it, because it does look very similar to Morrowind, which was what everyone was talking about at the time, that it was on a console and not just something accessible on PC. That was another game, Morrowind, that really put over how powerful the Xbox was, and more capable, I would say, than something like the PS2. It's just, the PS2 was unstoppable at that time. Still, the original Xbox was a really cool system. So I hope this anniversary stream introduces a whole bunch of new games we can play through backwards compatible on our Xbox Series X or Xbox Series S with improvements. How cool would it be if they went back and added things like ray tracing or higher resolution textures, all these different things to the original Xbox games? We can see them in a whole new light, but I guess we'll find out next week during that live stream. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, have you played any of the PS2 Metal Gear Solid games, that being 2 or 3? 39% said yes, I've played at least one on the PS2, the original hardware. 10% said yes, I played a remastered release. Then 51% said no, I haven't played any of the older Metal Gear Solid games. Konami, what are you doing? You gotta get this collection, Metal Gear Solid. If you can get 1, 2, and 3 as one collection, drop it on the Switch, the PlayStation 5, and the Xbox Series. That would be awesome. The collection, I know from the 360, will play on the Xbox Series X and Series S if you got it digitally before it was pulled down. I talked about that on the second channel. Here's hoping they pop back up here soon. But yeah, I think there's a whole audience that just missed out on those. And I would like to think that Konami understands this and they're going back and they're getting that ported over to newer hardware, because it would be cool. I've played through these games so many times, but I would go back and do it again because the games are timeless. And you know what? I would say in some instances, they've aged so well that they're more relevant now than they were back in the early 2000s. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Poem saying, I feel like John mistakenly thinks that the lack of messaging is some oversight rather than what it actually is, a conscious decision not to include it. Oh, no, I think it definitely is Nintendo being very stubborn and not wanting people to communicate back and forth on their specific hardware from them. Like, if a third party like Fortnite wants to include voice chat, well, I mean, they can. Otherwise, though, if you want to communicate, you gotta do it off the Switch. You gotta get your cell phone. And it's just Nintendo being Nintendo. I'd like to think that they stop being so scared of human interaction on their system, but I don't know, maybe just what they've seen out of things like Miiverse or Swap Note just scarred them so much they don't want anything to do with that. If you want to talk to people, get your cell phone. No, don't call them. Use the Nintendo app. That's much more convenient. And ladies and gentlemen, that's good to hear for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was Nintendo's Black Friday sale. Are you disappointed that the bundle Is it the same bundle we've had for years now, or are you picking up some of these games that have been slashed by $20 or more? Let me know about that. And then also, what about the PS5 hacking situation? Seems like things are accelerating. Do you think Sony is going to respond in some way, or do you think by next year we could have a PS5 that's completely opened up? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.